Streets of crypto is filled with blood. So are we really looking at this kind of scenario, or are we really looking at further bleeding in the market? When you are in this situation, that is one of the important questions which you ask yourself, right? So here, I would really like to take you guys through some interesting stuff which charts are showing. Now that's for Bitcoin, that's for XRP, that's for Ether, the entire altcoin market. All of these actually ties in, because at the time when you actually see these kind of stuff happening, it's not just in one region it's happening in all of different sectors. All of the different countries are slowly getting in, and things are really getting a boost. Now we need to understand, when money comes here, when new capital and brain power comes into one area of finance, especially where you have a lot of financial assets, it does price in. But I'm not talking about going into these kind of stuff and then, when you make money, you buy these kind of stuff. And when the market drops, you have to actually sell that. It's really visible in the market. How many of the crypto guys had the financial maturity, right? So that's what we are going to discuss today, to understand, okay, whether we are going to go up or we are going to get hit with the Kramer's curse, because we know what's happening and we really don't want to get that. And to point out one stuff, we've talked about this. Yes, it actually went a little bit above, but right now, if you are looking at the price, it is slowing down. Now, yes, it's just the start of week. You need to look through the whole week and how it evolves. But as of now, it does feel like we were talking on the correct path and we are on the right path. So let's actually break all this into detail so you understand where we are headed as a market. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Right now, what you're observing in XRP, if you zoom in, is a piercing candle. So that is clear. And you also get to see this low, and this low is a lower low at a time when your RSI is making a double bottom pattern. So that's a bullish divergence with a piercing candle appearing on a daily chart. Fine. I'm not saying we are going sky high tomorrow. I'm saying you are getting bullish news. Now, why am I saying that? You go look at this historically. Whenever you get these patterns, you start a new trend. Now, if that happens, that's all good, all great, because this is not just me saying this. You go into the market, you look at a lot of different assets, whether it's to the upside, whether it's to the downside, you actually see this. You get a change in the trend. Here you made a higher high and then you got another from the top. So that's reversal. Fine. Now we go on to the Bitcoin chart and it clearly shows you okay, on a short term, you are right now making a falling wedge. Usually that's bullish. Now, if you have a doubt whether these works, if you remember, we had a pattern which stayed there and made the price to come down, was this, which was a rising wedge. And usually rising wedges are bearish. We did correct back down all the way up to 19,500. So right now when we observe this pattern, I presume okay, more likely we are gonna break to the upside. Now, that's on a 4-hour chart. It's a short-term scenario. So we definitely want to see the price coming up, breaking through 2,800. That's a great mark. That's at least a good start. Now, when we actually go into the market, say on a daily chart for Bitcoin, now we just saw for XRP, it's slowly moving up, it's piercing. And at the same time, if you're observing for Bitcoin, then for Ether, you actually say, okay, that looks so similar. Fine. Then you go look at the entire altcoin market space and you see okay, I kind of see something is happening here. On a daily, you just erased last day of bearishness. Now you're almost at that point where you are erasing last 2 days of bearishness. which kind of accelerated the thought process of a lot of human beings, because we are all having emotions, right? When the price drops, it's really hard to digest. But what we have to do is to look at the market and think like, okay, what's really happening, right? And if you are able to get that perspective, like, okay, we are correcting, I kind of get that, but it's also showing you a different pattern. Now, this may also go to the upside. Now, you're not actually getting a real double bottom here. Right now, you're still waiting because you don't know whether it's going to trend upside. Yes, you get one candle which is slowly reversing, and it's on a daily. So when you actually go back on a 3-day chart, what you want to see here is a piercing candle. So at least 50% of the last candle is erased. That's a good start. Now for Bitcoin, the same. If you go on a 3-day chart, you can see like, okay, we are working on a piercing candle, and this level is really important. That's like, just above the $20,000 mark. Now, why am I saying this is so important? Because for me, when I'm looking at this, yes, it acted as a resistance before, and way before that, even way before that, when we actually had the all-time highs, that was here, right? We made that here. Great. So if we are able to stay above that based on all the other, descriptive statistics, inferential, all those other stuff which I have shown you in the last video, whether you are exiting the market or you can look at the reality and say, okay, let those people who are exiting go out. I'm fine. I'm not panicking, right? You come to see the reality. So if that's you, now we are looking at like, okay, what's really happening in the market? Yes, there is a lot of different stuff happening. And along with that is the dollar. Dollar is strong. I'm not saying it's weak. But what I'm trying to argue here is that the dollar broke through this level of previous resistance. Great. Okay, it's a resistance, so it should be red. Great. You broke through that level. But you coming back and retesting that level is still bullish, because for dollar, this is somewhere you're trending up. You had your impulse to the upside. So if you're taking the idea here, you went up, consolidated here. You again went up, you're consolidating in this particular range. You're breaking higher. So if you retest this and go high, that still is not a bad thing. But keep this in mind, if you're coming back down, it takes some time. Then bottoming out, it takes some time. So if you want to actually look at like, okay, how long it actually took last time to come down, it's like 1 year. Now that's more than enough for crypto to actually do something really great. Now if you say like, okay, how long it actually took to bottom out, it's like 500 days. Great. That's just one time. You can ask like, okay, what about before that? The first bottom was like 266 days and the actual bottom was like 400 days. So taking that into this picture and going back, you do see like last time when we actually did the monster run up, if you remember back here, the price was like, okay, Bitcoin slowly pumping, and yes, dollar was slowing down. And now if you look at the question like, okay, last year when we were actually moving up, what was happening? This was that stuff. We were going down, dollar was going down, 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 down. And by this time when the dollar bottomed out, crypto topped out. So if the same is happening here, that's more than enough room for crypto to run high. But remember, when you are making money on the side, don't just jump into these kind of stuff. Literally, you don't have to go and, how can I say, market for these companies, putting that brand logo here, there, and running around marketing for them when it's literally they're not paying you, you're paying them and you're marketing for them. You don't have to actually do that. You go read the book like, Psychology of Money, or one of the interesting book for me is like, Richest Man in Babylon. You get that right perspective. Fine. Now, this for me is like, okay, this guy has been like, not good in terms of what he's saying. And we saw that. But right now, when you go look at the market, say, for example, you're looking at the S&P and it's getting rejected, you have room to come down. That's messy. But you go look at like, different stocks. Let it be Apple. You see like, okay, it's slowing down. It tried to break higher, but it faked out. So now the potential is that you may come down. Now that downside is not a small downside. It is, even though it's going to be in the same pattern, it still can drop 30%. So then the question becomes like, okay, if that is dropping, will crypto market go higher? Because usually we see like when that's low, this one is also slow. So can we neglect that? Because if you actually measure the number of days actually taken from this top to this bottom, it's 50 days. But we do understand that it's not just 50 days which we have. We have macro numbers, days coming in. September, early September, like Ether merged, then September 13, the CPI, September 23, the inflation, the Fed rate hike against the inflation, all those are coming in. But if you are a fundamental guy, a value investor, what you're looking at is how the space is changing. Is this happening for good? Now, these are regulators, literally not the US regulators, but around the globe, they are working on this particular space to make sure it's really great, it's really good, and a lot of people, companies are moving there. They are building there, right? And one way or the other, it's useful. Let it be for payments, let it be as a store of value, it's being used. And you see a lot of people and money coming into the space building new solutions for existing problem. Now, you also have blockchain projects where, there is no solution. It's just something which is being posed as a solution for a problem which does not exist anymore, right? You are actually either looking for something which happened in the past or expecting that's going to come in the future, right? So one thing for sure is that you don't want to be in that space. And in US, yes, it's really slow and you want to see something good happening. Now, this has to happen within a short period of time, because when we are looking at this from Federal Reserve, and I'm like, okay, mid 2023, they're going to go in full scale. So before that, they need an infrastructure so that they can start the service. Domestically, internationally, whatever they want to do, they need that infrastructure laid out. And this kind of goes into like, a lot of different countries are doing this right now. Bank of Indonesia and Singapore is trying to do their cross-border payments via QR code. So it's like, payments is now an interesting space and central banks are becoming heavy. It's not just a company becoming heavy. That is also great if it's a giant company, but this is a central bank. There's another central bank. All of them are focused on payments. So if you are looking at XRP, XLM, HBAR, all of those, it's actually great. Because as I highlight every time, fundamental on the other side for the economy does not actually look good. Because if this is to happen, government has to either come out and say like, okay, you can't kick them out, but you are not getting rent. It doesn't work like that, because people actually ask like, okay, why can't you just pay the rent? I'm like, okay, the rent is going up like crazy. And is your salary or your income going up like that? Most likely, no. So if you are here asking this question like, okay, why the rental prices keeps getting worse? The inflation is through the roof. Rental income is going up. Great if you own those. If not, you're paying more at a time when your groceries are costing you double, your gas fee is so high. So it does make sense to be scared about the economy. But at that point is where you actually ask like, okay, do I really have an opportunity here? The markets have come down enormously, and that's one of the hard part. And this particular quote for me sounds really great at this time. Now I'm generalizing this. The stock exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. So right now, when the market is 75% down, 80% down, people are talking about, let me sell this and move out. It was not in the middle, was not at the top. Right now, when we are here. Now that goes to a feeling like, okay, what if it drops to 10,000? That's another 50% drop. What if it drops to 5,000, 15,000? Different numbers get thrown in and you really don't know which one is actually going to happen. Now, I don't think anyone really knows. But what we can do is to look at the market, learn from the market, and try to take a proper educated guess. It can be right, it can be wrong, but it all depends on how much time you're putting in to learn this stuff. So if you are learning and you are getting that idea of what the market is doing, great. You are going to make money, because if I may say one thing, a lot of people right now believes that this is a bear market. Great, it's completely up to you. But if you think in one market cycle it's only going to be one major drop like this, I'm not sure. And there are people who says like, okay, we go 3 months upside, then 8-10 months to the downside. Then how does it look like? Say for me, when I'm looking at the market, I look at this like, okay, yes, this is crypto market, right? So when you go on a Bitcoin, if you want to look at it generally, you go and look at it. Okay, this is the market cycle which we have seen in Bitcoin. Great. You go look at this, and then you ask that question like, okay, from here, once we bottomed out, we went up to the top like 140 days. Okay, you went up 140 days. After which, what happened? You consolidated, drop, you were doing all the stuff for 60 days. From there, you went up again, somewhere close to like 140, 150 days. Then what happened? We are consolidating again. So yes, it's literally like you're working through the week and you're waiting for that Friday for the weekend. That's something like this. Just the time is really more here. You are waiting for that short term by buying low, averaging down, accumulating whenever possible at the bottom, so that when it goes up, you don't actually need to wait till the top. You can take profit whenever you like if you're averaging down at the bottom. Now, right now, it does not feel like that. I clearly understand that. It's a huge difference in opinion. It's a huge difference in thought process. But if you are looking for like, last 4 years, if you're looking for last 10 years, you actually get to see the big picture. And I'm not a bull for, Bitcoin. I completely agree on that point. We can say one thing, the other thing. Everyone will have different perspective. But right now, this is a trend line where the price is following from some time. So if you are bouncing from this region, that is great. Now, if not, yes, it's not going to be just 5. It's not going to be 15,000. I think we are going to go much lower. So at that point, you're saying like, okay, all these institutions who bought at 30,000, who bought at 45,000, they're getting killed by price going to 3,000. I have a hard time believing that. And then we have the other stuff like, okay, Tether is going to blow off. Great. Imagine like that. Then what happens to the crypto market? It goes off completely. So all these institutions who are and central banks, some of them who are in crypto gets wiped out. So I don't think that's going to happen. So if that happens, it happens. But that's like the world is ending tomorrow. Great. And if you think the world is ending tomorrow, it doesn't make any sense to, have that much cash in the bank. Great. Whereas if the world does not end tomorrow, now you have opportunity at your disposal to make money. So if you are looking for these guys who have proved over and over again in the market that it is really great to understand when to buy and when not. The safe time to invest is when there is blood in the streets. Now, it's just putting this one in a different way, but you need to actually understand some things, right? I will tell you how to become rich. Close the doors, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. So if you ask that question to yourself, are you really feeling greedy right now? Or at least if you are in a family who's in crypto and you're talking about fear, or are you talking about greed? So if you see the majority is having that fear right now, then you can make whatever you want from this. But for me, that's like, okay, that's some time in your investing career where you really have to be contrarian. You have to go against the crowd. So if you are going to make money, you definitely have to take those risky decisions, because investing does not come without risk. Risk and reward, that's what you are looking at. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you are looking for more of these, follow up. Next video will be coming soon within the next 24 hours, analyzing the market to see what the market is actually bringing us. If it's breaking through the downside, okay, we are going zero. No, just kidding. We can do this and still come back up. There are different possibilities. What we have to keep our eyes on is like what the price is doing and how traders and investors are reacting to any news if something comes in between. So that's it for today, guys. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye-bye.